Hello everyone, it's Christine here and I'm back to do some work with you on my Roxy Journal of Stitchery treasure hunt piece and the botanical prompt, which is running for this 2-week period. So we'll be getting a new prompt this Wednesday, but I want to have some fun with you doing some thread painting. So since the last time I've done some more thread painting myself and started sketching out some of the elements, but I didn't want to do it all off camera. I wanted to do some of it with you and talk you through what I've done and what I've used. So I've used a variety of different threads, which I'll talk about as we go through, everything from crochet cottons to perlés to wool to Milford satin. I guess that's a crochet type one. And also embroidery flosses and Appleton wools, so lots of variety. So what I thought we might do is we can start off doing some French knots in here. Actually, what I'll do is bring it up to the camera in case you're not getting a good view of what I've done so far. So you can see lots of French knots, which I started, did a bunch of them in this perlé thread, and then I'm going to use this multicolour variegated Milford satin to add just some variation. So you can see there's some that are already a lighter coloured brown in there, and I just thought that would just make it a bit more interesting rather than just having all of the French knots done in the same colour. And then I've used my beautiful fine Appleton wools to do some pink and some burgundy, and also some mustard coloured stitching, because this design did also have sort of yellow little specks coming out into the flowers. So it is such a relaxing way to stitch, because it's really just stitching by numbers. You're just looking at the colours and then you're following that same colour around. You can do colour change, which is what I've started doing up here, and which we'll do some of that together. Whereas I didn't want to have this blue flower because my piece doesn't have blues in it. So I've been colour changing it using just a regular, I think this is just a regular crochet cotton, and I didn't think it would come out looking so beautiful, but it's really it's almost got a little sheen to it that you just don't see in the ball of the wool, but it's just really lovely and beautifully textural. And then down here I've used some of my thicker wools as well as my thicker perlés, and I've just that's a split stitch I've done to define this sort of marking on the flower. I then started to put in some lighter areas in this pink. I've used a thicker, it is that colour, a thicker wool to do a split stitch outlining this, and then just start to fill in some of those areas. And then I'll be using some yellow, and I was thinking of using, if I can find where it's gone, it's hiding, there it is. I was thinking I could use some of this down here as well as up here, and this is a vintage mulberry silk Carland yarns. So I just got it in a batch from, I think, Melanie, purveyor of Reclaimed Textiles. And then I've used a thicker green to just, I first of all did a split stitch up here, and then I did some stitching down. I've actually expanded the base of the flower. It's bigger than what it was in the actual fabric because I just wanted to make it look like it was the base of the flower. And then I've wrapped my thread around a number of times to get a thicker stem that actually sort of sits off the piece, so it was quite textural. And I didn't have any, the fabric where I'd cut it out, there was no stem coming down, but I thought this flower needed its stem coming across, so that was fun. And basically with this I just keep adding stitches until it gives me the effect that I want to have. So that's probably enough talking. Let me grab, so I've actually already got this threaded. I was actually wondering where my thread had gone that I'd been working on the little French knots, but in fact it was already on my needle in my pin cushion. So it's already got a knot in the end. We are all ready to go. So I'm going to just come up and fill in the areas, not all of them, you can still leave some gaps where I haven't got French knots yet. Trying to remember if I think I was doing double French knots. Let's have a look if that looks similar. I guess it doesn't matter either. It all adds sort of variety to it. So with French knots just popping up, and then wrapping around the needle the number of times that you want to do them. So I think 2 or 3 would be fine. So I might even do a variety of 2 and 3. And so just adding that colour variation with the brown. And the variegated brown will, if we get through to some other parts of the colour variegation, it will add some nice dark specks as well. So I'll just jump around so that we are getting that sort of colour variation. So I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a good day. I hope you might be getting some nice relaxing crafting time. I'm finding it hard to be watching the television at the moment and watching news. It's just really distressing what people are doing to each other in other parts of the world. For me, it all just comes back to treating people as we would want to be treated ourselves, and it's just beyond my sort of imagination or my sphere of being able to relate to the world to think that people can treat each other in the way that's unfolding overseas. So hearts absolutely go out to everyone, innocents involved in this, because there's a lot of innocent people. I think in any conflicts there's innocent people on both sides of the conflict, and that's the real tragedy. And thinking about this blanket that travelled out with Alex's mum after the war, and she had to flee her home with just a few possessions, including this blanket. So I think it does have extra significance. Watching people fleeing their homes. Hope I'm not being a downer on you, but sometimes I find it helps to just put into words what might be hanging around in your head and your heart. But I guess what we can do is just treat others with kindness and compassion, and hope that it spreads. Fill up the world with more good than there is bad. And look after ourselves as well. So I think for me a strategy will just not be watching the news. I don't think it's going to be good for my well-being. And at the same time, you don't want to sort of be oblivious to what is happening in the world, but maybe just limiting, I guess. Limiting the exposure, being aware, being compassionate, but not watching it to such an extent that it causes distress. That was the needle making that strange noise then, coming through. I think it's where I've got the layers folded over, so it's quite a few layers. But the blanket's definitely good to stitch into, and giving me a really robust base, so I can do this quite detailed thread stitching without it kind of puckering up the fabric. So we're getting to the nice dark browns now, which is good because I can just intersperse those amongst the other French knots. So don't discount sort of the other types of balls of yarn. You can get them quite affordably, and they can be really good for mixing into your stitching. Some of the threads can be quite expensive. That's why I also like to get mine secondhand. Often they haven't even been opened, but they're just from someone's collection that doesn't need them anymore, and you can get really good value as well. I did a big tidy up of and reorganisation of my craft room, so I've now got a lovely set of shelves right to the right of me, which have everything I need sort of close at hand, plus a little trolley to the left of me, which has everything else I need close at hand. And then I've moved other things that don't need to be reached for into other parts of the craft room, and did a bit of moving around as well. So my boxes that store my fabric are sort of behind the shelves here. So I'm not sort of feeling crammed in by the boxes of fabric, the plastic boxes. And I got some lovely little sliding drawers from Kmart that are perspex, I guess you would call them. Let me just bring one down to show you. So they're like this, and they're great because you can just freely take the little plastic drawer out, and they also sit in a bit so they won't gather dust, even though they've got a little sort of opening there protected, and they stack on top of each other, which is fabulous as well. So I think I'll probably be getting some more of those to go on this little shelving unit that I've got, because it just keeps, yeah, the threads. So I've got my perles in one, I've got my neutral coloured crochet cottons in another, and my wools, as you saw there. So yeah, I think that could be super way to organise. So I just got the 3 drawers to start out with. And they're quite sturdy. Some of the other plastic drawer sets you can get, they kind of bow over time, but now this little loop, I've left a little loop up off the fabric, which probably wouldn't be a problem anyway, but I can just bring my needle back through, catch the little loop, and just stitch it down, just so that it'll just form another little French knotty bit. So probably only need a few more little French knots in here, and then we can move on to doing a different part of the thread painting. I just wanted to give you as much of a flavour of what I've been doing and so if you haven't done thread painting, or you're wanting just a bit of different inspiration, hopefully it will give you that. So probably put another one up in here, just trying to find the bits where I haven't got French knots. But yeah, it's definitely worked to have that variation in colour, not to do it all in the single colour, because in flowers you get the parts of the centre that are more mature than the other parts, and that's where they'll be darker often as the seed forms in the centre. Like in the beautiful sunflowers where you get the sunflower seeds forming up. Don't know if I'm going to plant them this year because the cockatoos love them, and then they come and play destruction in the garden. As much as I love the cockatoos too, I just don't want my summer garden destroyed. So put that in my Ort jar. Okay, so that is our little French knots in all different colours, using this lovely variegated satin 2-ply Milford. Now we might move on to doing a bit more of the thread stitching around here. So I was using a wool. Let me see if I've got any of the wool loose. There we go. So it is this, oops, let's get rid of the greens. It's this Appleton Crewel wool, so it's the thinner wool. Pure wool, moth resistant. I wonder how they make it moth resistant. And yeah, so this is again a vintage one that I've got vintage. And I've tied some of it around here. That's not going to get me that far, so we might put that piece aside and get a fresh piece. And so I've been using this in addition to the pink, but I haven't finished stitching all the way around, so I thought we'll do some of that, and then we can move on to colour changing up that other. Okay. With the wool, I find it's easiest to tie the knot at the end. Sometimes that technique of bringing the knot down, the wool just doesn't work as well. So it's Sunday when I'm filming this here, Sunday morning. Travis and I went out to the dog park before, so that was nice, and I'd done a quick little pop into the supermarket before that to get some fresh meats and things for the week ahead. It's good to go early before everyone else was at the supermarket. And all the fresh baked goods, etc. were out, so that was nice too. So with the thread painting, I'm just basically going to do long and short stitches. I just think I've brought my end through, so I'm just going to work out what I've pulled through into the fabric. Something's been pulled through. Not sure. Anyway, we'll stitch over it. And I'm just going to do, long and short stitches. And I'll probably pop up near to where I pop down just to conserve my thread and not waste all my thread on the back, if that makes sense. So I've just popped down there, so I'm going to then pop up sort of near to it so that I'm not squandering precious thread. But yeah, these Appleton wools are really lovely and fine. And again, don't work with a long length of them. The bits I've got, I think, have been pre-cut, or maybe they come that way, which is the recommended length, but that's about as much as you would want to have. Otherwise, they can get a bit of wear and tear, and they'll just give way partway through stitching. Yeah, you don't have to think too much about this. You just need to think about which direction do your stitches need to go, and then just follow the area where you want to colour in with the stitches. And if you end up putting some stitches sort of laying over the top of each other, that actually just adds texture as well, so that's fine also. So I'm just bringing it down and sort of bringing it down into that pinky area as well, so that the stitches intersperse with each other. So again, popping up in that pinky area and bringing the stitch out. And yeah, you can do a mix of long and short stitches. I'm doing relatively long ones here, but not so long that they'll get floppy or anything. Then I just want to bring this one down more sort of on an angle like this. I'll just angle it down and then fill in the space in between. So here I am overlaying some stitches over each other just to get the sort of the thread going in the direction I want it to go. And as you can see, you get a really lovely petal effect then with the petal, the coloration of the petal gradually changing. So here I'm going to just pop up just outside where I've done that little line of split stitch, which will just give a little bit of plumpness at the edge of the petal. Oops, and see, there you go. That's where the thread can give way. And so we'll just find where that piece was and pull that through. And then I will just put a stitch, I think, on the back just to hold that. In fact, I can actually just tie those two ends together. And then we'll just keep going. And I suppose being vintage as well, it might not be as strong, but I suppose wool isn't as, it's never going to be as strong as like a polyester or even a cotton. But you want to use a needle that's a decent size, so you're making a decent sized hole for the thread to pass through, which reduces the tension that you'll end up having on the thread. I'll just get rid of those little endy bits too, so I don't accidentally bring them through. You can see the amount of stitching there already with the thread painting. So I'm loving these burgundies and golds and browns and greens together. Really happy with the colour selection. I've got lots in my collection to go into it too. Got quite a lot for this botanical prompt, so there might be a few more videos yet actually. See how I go today. I might just leave the video on and yeah, do a few different things. I've got my little Yorkshire buttons that I want to add on as a little set of 3 flowers somewhere. And then I've got some other fabrics and goodies also. And then there's some things from previous prompts and monograms and other bits and pieces too that I need to get on, as well as those pieces I've made, my Joy de Vivre piece and the piece that I made in memory of my grandpa. So I've just got to think about where I space them, but I thought I wanted to get back down probably a few more like of the sort of background or integrating pieces, bits of lace and things over the lace, and then yeah, sort of start to stitch those pieces down too. The needle doesn't go through easily, just see if you can angle it a different direction, because you might be trying to push through a knot or something like that. There's a little bit of lace that got caught in there and sort of looking pale there, so I'm just going to put a stitch over that to cover that up. But I hope if you're intimidated by thread painting, hopefully this is showing you that it's really straightforward, really relaxing to do too, because you're just following the fabric if you want to, or you're doing a bit of colour changing or pattern changing if you want to. Sometimes you'll sort of see something and think, oh no, I don't want that element that way. I'll just like the stem and the calyx at the bottom of the flower. Yeah, you can just do it the way that you want it. So I think I'll tie that bit off because we're almost at the end of that bit of wool. There we go. And then I think I still need to just complete down here, so we'll do that. So let me know what you're working on, if you're stitching while you're watching, or if you've got a project that you're doing at the moment, if you're doing the Roxy Journal of Stitchery or something else. Sometimes the wool's a bit fluffy at the end, so it can be, sometimes you have to double it over as well to get it to thread. Okay, Okay, so I might start, I think I've done as much as I want around there, so I'll just start over here. Just shorten my thread a bit. I don't mean actually cutting the thread, I just mean pulling it a bit more through the needle, so, but that was a bit too much, just so it's not dragging as much. I'll squeeze a short little stitch in there, up to the edge. It is very hard to push through there, must be right on the border at the back. Sometimes the wools will try to knot a little bit as well. But they're pretty nice to work with, and they definitely give a really lovely feel to your piece. But yeah, I can highly recommend a blanket just sort of to stitch into. Just check that it isn't sort of too dense of a weave or something, but this one's, yeah, quite nice. Oops, almost popped up through one of my French knots. So sending a cheerio to all my lovely subscribers and commenters. Yeah, it does mean so much to hear from people that are watching, because otherwise sometimes when you're doing these sorts of things, you think, oh, is anyone interested? Is anyone wanting to sort of, yeah, see this? I mean, I think I'd probably be doing it anyway, because it is nice to have you here in my craft room, but it is nice to know that you are out there, so that when I do have my camera here and I'm chatting away into it, I know I'm chatting to some folks. But thanks to the lovely Leanne, who said that she's enjoying these longer format videos again, after I'd been doing mostly shorter ones for the Stitch Along, which is still going, but also I'd been doing shorter ones, sharing my Stitchery swap squares, which had kept me really busy. And in fact, I'll be launching into another round of those soon, but I haven't taken on as many swaps. I actually haven't taken any new ones on. These are just the ones that I had taken on last time that I couldn't include in my first round, and so promised folks that I would pick them up in a second round. So, but I'm planning to time those to coincide with the next round of Annie Claxton's Stitchery swap, which starts in November. I think with the aim of getting the squares to folks in time, in advance of sort of Christmas time. So that will be sweet. And there's a little bit of the petal that comes down here, so I'll bring it down here. But yeah, I do enjoy these longer format where you're just able to have a bit of a natter while you stitch. Not that I have really exciting things to say. Garden's looking lovely though for summer. The tomatoes that I'd planted in are coming along beautifully, and some basil, beans. Still waiting for my little cucamelons to pop up in the seedling trays on the heating mat where I start off my seedlings. They'll be lovely to have fresh tomatoes again. Nothing better than garden fresh tomatoes heated by the sun and eaten straight from the bush with just a quick little wash. So just adding a few stitches in, but you might be able to see just a little bit of the lace background has sort of come through, or maybe the edging of the fabric when I was stitching down the edges. Just poked my finger, ouch. Okay, and then I need to come up here. So you're just filling in all of the bits that are of the colour that you're working on at that time. Stitch by numbers, we will call it. Thread painting / stitch by numbers. Except there's no numbers, there's just colours. Oops. But I guess the creativity comes in selecting the colours that you want to use and the different types of fibres or threads. And then what stitches you actually use. But a lot of thread painting can just be done with that long and short stitch. And then yeah, French knots are great for doing the sort of bobbly bits, adding texture. And then the split stitch is great for outlining that you can then stitch over and just get a bit of that plumpness. So there we go, that is that flower all stitched out beautifully. So we will tie that off also. And in fact, in the process of just pulling the knot tight, the thread slightly broke itself, so I think I'll put that bit of thread aside. And that bit probably as well. So we can probably do some more thread painting on the leaves, I think. So I might use a darker green, and I think I was just using my embroidery floss for that. Let me see where I put it. I had it a moment ago because I know it got caught in something. Unless I need to pick up another one. I'm not sure where it's gone, or is it down here somewhere? I'm not sure if it was that. Oh, maybe it was that colour. Or was it? Oh no, I think it was this colour actually. Just got to find where the rest of that came from, not from that one. But I've got a bit here, which should be enough, I think. So I think I was using that as full 6 strands. So again, this is just a regular embroidery floss, and so I'll want to get the edges stitched down. So I'm stitching over where the fabric is to make sure that the edges are properly secured down. So the thread will actually anchor it in place. And I'll go a bit over the area of the edge to make sure there's not a sort of a raw edge showing. I could have gone around here and done some little stitches, which is what I'd done around the rest of it, just to get it held down before I would get to that part of the thread painting. And I just used a regular, I think I might have even used a crochet cotton or something for that, but you can just use a regular cotton as well, because you'll be painting over that whole area, so it doesn't actually even matter what colour you use. So again, I'm just doing some long and short stitches. That's very thick there, so I'm just going to bring the needle back to an easier spot and just going in the direction that I want the leaf to be pointing. And I've used 3 greens here, this sort of khaki, this lighter green, and then the darker green. So again, I'm just going to paint out the darker green area. And then we can come back and see if we need any of the lighter green or khaki. I think I'll bring it down so that it's more pointing like that perhaps, so I might do a bit more stitches in that direction. And I might pop over to this side and Just pop a few more darker green ones in here as well. Oops, got a little notch. As I say, if you find a spot that's hard to push through, just angle your needle somewhere else and see if you can get an easier journey. There's no point hurting your hands in the process of trying to get the stitches if there's going to be an easier route. Because we want to keep our hands able to keep stitching. So I might make this little prong up here a bit thicker, so I might just come... I'm sure prong's not the proper term for this part of the leaf. Almost at the end of this bit of green. Let's make sure it stays threaded while I get it through to the back. And then I'll just get a little knot done. Pass the back of the needle back through the loop, and then let it unthread and tie it off. Okay, and then I think I might, if I can find the khaki colour, which I think I can. I think it's this one. I might put a bit at the tip of this one because I don't think I've done that yet either. So again, this is the finer Appleton wool, and I think, yeah, it has been, probably comes in these set lengths. I've never bought it new, so I only have the vintage stuff to compare to. So again, I will tie the knot at the end, rather than running the knot down the wool. Sending a cheerio out to my buddy Annie Claxton. Hope you're having a good relax. You definitely deserve it. You do so much for all of us who are in the stitching world. You're like an Energizer bunny, but sometimes even Energizer bunnies have to have a rest. Sending a cheerio out to Giusy. I think you're going to be having a lovely family lunch. You were telling us about it in our little stitch along chat. I think your table is like metres upon metres long, which is amazing. My lovely Martha's back from her travels. There's some beautiful things she picked up along the way, including a wonderful bargain bag of Perle cotton. You can find her over at Martha Managros, or look for her in my comments and you'll be able to follow her from find her from there and click over to her channel. And I was watching Marnell's video last night where she was working on her Roxy piece, although I think it was from a little while ago. I'm just catching up on various videos. So Marnell from Mimi's Keepsakes. Hopefully I got that right. And then I always love seeing, and I think I've got a video waiting for me, Becca from Willow Hill Designs, who's also doing Roxy's Journal of Stitchery and does other great quilting and other projects. So many good YouTubers out there. with Susanna over at Vintage Blend Studios. And Corinne, who most of you probably know her channel. She is a prolific producer and of puppies as well. She's got a whole little platoon of puppies at the moment. That must be keeping her busy, I'm sure. But she's another Energizer bunny who just, she is incredible with her stitchery videos. There are many, many, many. I learn a lot from Sarah Humphrey's videos. I like both her embroidery channel, but her other sort of crafty, slow stitchy channel as well. She was talking recently about some of her lovely travels to Norway. I think, Norway's fjords. Was it Norway's? So that's the khaki green done. So those little leaves, I think, are looking pretty good now. So that flower, I think we can call that done, which is great. So let me show you how I'm doing the colour changing on this. So I'm using this thicker crochet cotton. And again, use a thick needle because your cotton's thick, so you want your needle to be sort of equivalent or slightly bigger thickness. And so the area that I've stitched so far is the dark blue. So again, we can just start doing that, and then we'll start doing the medium blue and then the lighter blue, but we'll be working in this more sort of the colour theme that works with my piece, which is the purples and burgundies. Oops, and I've come through and I caught my knot on the end of my needle, and so I'll just need to get that back. And so I'm just going to follow where the dark blue is and put in long and short stitches. And once we're done, you won't even know that it was a blue flower to begin with. And so that's why thread painting is great, because you could even work with a different fabric colour scheme than what you want for your piece, and you can, through your thread choice, turn it into whatever colour you want it, but you're still using the sort of the designers, the artists who created the designs coloration in terms of, or actually dark and light, etc. Would you call that more passionation rather than coloration, to guide where you put your stitches? So you're still getting the benefit of someone else having done the thinking work about the light and dark and shading. Do you find thread painting really relaxing as well? I'd love to hear in the comments. I find it incredibly relaxing. I'm actually having to make an effort to not be lulled into just a peaceful silence. Although some of you probably wouldn't mind that. Some of you might be, I don't know, just watching this video, or some of you might just be listening while you stitch. It's fascinating to think about how the video is being engaged with. And I do feel like you're kind of here with me now, but obviously you're watching it at a different time when I'm not going to be stitching this particular piece of it. I'll probably be stitching up here on this flower, I imagine. Or sleeping, indeed. Sometimes if I put my videos to schedule them to display later, it's when I'm sleeping. But when those in the US and Europe, etc., are awake. So yeah, using a thicker thread works really well as well, in that you don't have to do as many stitches if you're just using like a single strand of embroidery floss, which I wouldn't recommend unless you're doing a really delicate or small piece, but given this is quite a large piece, yeah, it definitely works well to have a thicker. And that's why the wools work well and the crochet threads, or in the case of where I was using the embroidery floss, using all 6 strands of it. So I don't think I have anything else particularly exciting to report. Just enjoying a very chilled weekend. Yeah, really happy that the craft room has gone from sort of a bit of disorder, and now that everything is, yeah, in a sensible place, and accessible and visible, but then the things that I don't want to kind of have crowding me in, like the boxes, they are in their own spot as well. So even though we've had some warm weather, we've been up to sort of 27 in recent weeks. It's definitely a cooler day, but not cold. I've just got like a light pair of, well, it's actually a little jumpsuit thing, but with a little blouse over the top. And it's, yeah, I'm not cold. I actually forgot to get myself a nice cup of tea before joining you. I've got some water here if I need it. But it's amazing how the time goes. We're at the 47-minute mark. I'll make sure I stop before the hour mark, the video, because otherwise, yeah, YouTube just doesn't seem to enjoy uploading it. I heard Sarah from one of the Roxy sisters, talking about how long her video took the other week to upload on YouTube. Sometimes it just seems to have that issue, and then other times it flies through. Come on. It's getting little bits of knottiness, but that's okay. So if you are looking for fabrics to do thread painting on, it's great to find ones that have this sort of, I guess, shading and graduation and interest in them. Because as you can see, when I get to do like that flower up there, there's going to be lots of different coloration to bring into it. So you want to have at least things that have, yeah, sort of a few different shades. Otherwise you'll just get a very blocky effect. But you can introduce your own shading. It's just this is a lot easier for for mindful, I guess, stitching, where you're able to kind of get into a flow. I think that's the trick. The flow is the thing that brings the joy and the pleasure and the relaxation. So if you can create that sort of opportunity for yourself when you're stitching, it's going to give you those well-being benefits, those mental health and well-being benefits. I've got some little endy bits there, but I think we can probably just stitch over those. I think it's probably where the edge of the fabric is. Might just bring my stitches a little bit up here. And I think once I've done this bit, we might move on to the rest of the shading of this flower, so you can at least see how I'm going to do that. And that way, if I don't get all of this done in the this video, you'll be able to see the approach, and I'll include a picture that shows the finished effect as my thumbnail for this video. And then I'll be probably coming back, and I think I might come back and do some more stitching with you if you want to. Obviously, if you've had enough thread painting, you can pass on that. But I'll definitely come back in a video and do create my little Yorkshire button piece. I think that actually that's meant to be the other colour, so I might just take myself to the back here, and then we'll tie off, and then I'll do the next bit of colouring in with a different colour. Okay. I decided to leave the selvage on as well because I love the little, even though it's going to be on the back of the piece, I thought, oh, it's fun, I'll leave it there for myself. Okay. Put that thread in my ort jar. Okay, so what colours are we going to do for this? We'll want something that's a lighter colour. I've got this perle, which I thought could go okay. It's a little bit more, it's definitely got some pinkiness in it, but I thought I could use that for that medium blue. Can you see there's just sort of a medium blue, and then there's a lighter blue, so I could go this pink, and then I was thinking I could use some of this, which I think is it's even got a bit of a bluiness in it, but I could use the pinky bits to do the lighter outer bits. I think that's what I'll do. Let's give that a go and see how that looks. Let's figure out how this roll. There we go. Got some endy bits. That's half the challenge, finding the endy bits. Ah, it's actually just a long, I think it's already been pre-cut as well. Yes, there we go. There's 2 pieces. So we'll do a bit of this, and then we'll do a bit of the light just to get a sense of how that looks. I think we might have some sausages in buns for lunch. We always call it a Bunnings lunch because I don't know, do you have Bunnings where you are? In Australia we have Bunnings, which is like a hardware store, and they have like fundraising groups that come and do a sausage sizzle there. And so when we have a sausage at home, we call it a Bunnings lunch. Do it with a nice salad or something to make it a bit healthier. But got some beautiful ciabatta buns at the Good supermarket, which is a smaller, like a local sort of grocery store, I guess, and they have lots of wonderful Italian products. It's run by an Italian family, and they make beautiful breads and got some parmesan and other nice things. So I'm just going to stitch this this sort of medium pinky. What's that colour? I'm just trying to think what this colour is called. I've got a singlet top in this colour. Having a mental block. It's almost like a watermelon-y sort of colour, but a slightly more intense watercolour colour. So I'm not sure how well you can see where the lighter blues are there, but I can see them. What have we got? It's trying to tangle itself on itself. There we go. And so this is probably a tiny bit thinner than the other thread, although it might be similar. But yeah, you can mix the different weights. Again, I wouldn't go with like a single strand of embroidery floss because it would look sort of out of proportion unless you were doing a really particular little detail, but it would probably get lost in the piece. Oh, and yesterday we took Travis to the pet shop where he gets to go in for a shop because we needed to get some more of his little lunchtime treats that he has in his Kong, which is Australian produced salmon skins, and they also help dog charities with the funds from it. But they were out of stock because the place we normally order from online was out of stock as well. So we got him some chewy chickeny bits instead. We stopped giving him pig's ears, and thank you. In fact, that's another shout out to the lovely Elizabeth from, oh my goodness, Elizabeth Robinson, I think. On YouTube, who makes great videos, but I haven't seen one of her Roxy videos for a little while. I'll have to have a check. I think she's been having a particularly busy time as well. I think it's that time of year when things can get very, very busy, or other things that cause busyness. But yeah, she Elizabeth recommended. She used to give pig's ears, I think, to her dog. She has quite a tribe of dogs, I think, but doesn't give them. But she gives salmon skins. So that's how I got started on the salmon skins for Travis. And the vet also did say that pig's ears, he has problems with them with his dogs, and they can get stuck. So we stopped. Don't want Travis to choke. So that is how that pinky is looking, and then I'll need to get some of the paler one into the mix as well. So I might just do that in the last few minutes, just so you get to see the sort of the effect on a small section. I'll just see if I can get a tiny bit more done here. That's probably as much as I can get if I don't want to go past the hour of power mark. So I'll tie this off and I'll come back and do that afterwards. Sorry, I just bumped the camera with my needle. Or the stand actually, not the camera. And then let's get some of this pinky coloured wool. The wool. Okay. It does definitely have a slightly more bluey colour down at the base of it, but I don't think that'll be a problem for this. I think it will still work okay. Actually, what I might do is start it off when it's a bit more pinky. I'll just put a notch and use that other piece for something else, because it was looking a little bit more blue than I was hoping. Cool. So again, just long and short stitches, and we're just going to intersperse that amongst the other stitches. The reason I've gone so light is that the design is quite a bit lighter than in the other shades, so I didn't want to use a more intense sort of pink for this. I wanted to really have that lighter colour. But yeah, I think this will work well. So I'll just work around to where we've done our other stitches, just so you can get to see the effect. just love how these pieces feel when you've finished them. They're just so lovely to run your fingers over. As well as being lovely to look at as well. So excited to get Fleur Wood's book. It's on pre-order, so hopefully, I think she said the Australian copies should be with the Australian bookshops. She does beautiful thread painting as well as all sorts of fibre arts, and so excited to be joining her at her workshop in March next year. A 5-day deep dive into fibre art. Such a treat. Okay, I'll just finish around on this petal. Otherwise the YouTube gods will probably not like the video being uploaded. But I just wanted to show you the process of doing the colour change and the sort of thinking behind the colours that I select. And again, just work with what you've got. Yeah, I don't advocate going out and rushing out and buying a whole lot of things. See if you've got something, a fibre that you can work with, or try something, even if it's a different sort of fibre than what I'm using. You might just find it's really lovely like that cheaper crochet cotton. I'll definitely be using that one elsewhere in the piece as well. So I reckon I will finish off there, and hopefully that has given you a bit of a sense of how to colour change, how to do French knots and different flowers. I'll finish doing this flower, and then the photo that I post as my thumbnail for this video, and I'll probably post some pictures in the Roxy Journal of Stitchery Facebook group as well, and you'll be able to see the finished piece for that flower. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you soon or chat to you soon. Bye everyone.